Welcome to another Light Reading Telecom Innovator video, where we are introducing you to some of the people and companies moving the global communications industry forward. I'm Phil Harvey. I'm an editor here at Light Reading, and today we are joined by Juniper Networks. And representing Juniper is Jim Capobianco from Juniper. He's the Director of Product Line Management. Hi, Jim. How are you?
Very well. Thank you, Phil. Great to be here.
Thanks for giving us a bit of your time today. The last time we talked to Juniper in a previous video series, we had things have such an understatement, but things have changed quite a bit. The networking industry and really all industries have had to grapple with the pandemic and kind of redefine who they are. And in the routing industry specifically, and in routing technology, it's kind of been a major inflection point. And a really interesting one as far as how service providers have persevered through this. So I wanted to, start out this conversation by talking about Juniper specifically and how Juniper has fared through throughout the pandemic and kind of what's changed.
Yeah. Again, thanks for having me here, Phil. And certainly, as we all have in our personal lives, but in our professional lives as well, the industry has been undergoing dramatic change and had to deal with massive disruptions in what was the norm. Obviously, there's been many fundamental changes in how we live and run our daily lives. Many of us are working from home, of course, and many of our children are going to school from home, right? And then many of the things we used to go and visit different companies or different places for, we're doing it over the internet. A lot of the medical industry is now being done via teleconferencing, so telemedicine. Naturally, this has had dramatic impact upon the traffic patterns for our service provider customers and our cloud provider customers. So the traffic patterns themselves have changed dramatically, and many other aspects. Obviously, the bandwidth demand is probably the most notable impact, where traditionally networks operated in a 35, 40% as a nominal rate. We've seen nominal increases up to the 75, 80%, with saturations levels being sustained at certain times. Now, you asked me how Juniper has fared and my product line, the MX. Quite honestly, we've been very, very happy with the robustness of the platform that has been tested under these very difficult conditions. So, this is for a couple of different reasons, but one of those is really fundamentally one of the differentiators of the MX product line. It is designed to be a much more versatile high-end router, whereas many of the other products in the industry and some of the ones even from Juniper are designed to be more use case specific. This versatility and high scalability that's designed into the product fundamentally has allowed us to accommodate these dramatic changes that have gone on in the industry and effectively in our customers' networks. Not only from the bandwidth perspective, but also from security. There's been several security disruptions that have taken place because of the bandwidth changes, the bandwidth demands, as well as the traffic pattern demands. Juniper's MX portfolio is one of the ones that differentiates itself by integrating a lot of the security aspects into the platform itself. So this has allowed us to weather the storm very well. So, basically the system has just worked, and we've been lucky enough to be rewarded because customers build out the networks to accommodate these changes with the products that they're comfortable with, which has been the MX.
Excellent. Yeah. So you've given us kind of a good overview of where how Juniper's been doing, how its customers are doing, and then where the MX product line has evolved to kind of meet the moment there. Speaking of the MX product line, let's kind of drill down there because the innovation in our industry is ongoing. Even when it's been, at times of a great challenge. I think it was about 3 years ago that Juniper came out with the MX 10,000 line. Let's talk about that particular platform and maybe what's coming up or what new innovations are on the horizon. Because even with the even with the change in our daily lives and the patterns the pandemic has kind of pushed on us, I know that companies never stop improving and innovating and getting their products ready to do more.
Yeah, appreciate the question. In the context of the MX 10,000 modular specifically, as you mentioned, it was introduced 3 years ago. And predominantly, the main reason we introduced that product to the market is to accommodate customers that needed high density 100 gigabit deployments and applications in their networks. And the product has excelled in doing that. Yes, we continue to innovate, and quite honestly, we're going to be introducing some very significant innovations in the MX10K modular product line very shortly. And it's going to be a series. But before I touch upon that, I just wanted to refresh our industry about one of the unique aspects of the 10K that are going to allow this innovation to continue. And this is the fact that as you continue to drive towards higher performance, and not just in the throughput performance of the system, but also having the platform truly be a multi-service and multiple functions at the same time. Obviously, this requires more processing power and higher line rates. Now, what all of us in the industry have to deal with is really the first physical constraint that you have in such a system is being able to cool it. It's not being able to power it. We can power it pretty easy, but being able to cool the system. And that's why the MX 10,000 modular platform, it was designed with no mid-plane or no backplane. It uses what we refer to as an orthogonal interconnect system, which allows air to go right from the front to the back without being disrupted. So it is the most efficient cooling system that you can get. So that is one of the big innovations that has been in the product since day one. Now, to specifically address your question, we will be introducing a series of new products in conjunction or that will be installed as part of the MX 10,000 modular platform. The first one is actually going to be released very soon in June of this year. It will be a moderate density 400 gigabit throughput, 480 gigabit throughput for 10 gig and 1 gig interfaces. So I mentioned predominantly the MX10K over the last 3 years has been shipping as a high density 100 gigabit platform. This will allow the platform to be installed in more general purpose networks. We'll follow on later in the year with higher speed, higher density interfaces. So we'll really be filling out the multi-service aspects of the platform. One of the key things I do want to bring up here is the underlying technology within the platform. And I mentioned the architectural aspects of the system. One of the main things is what we refer to as the Trio packet processing ASIC system. It's fundamentally unique in the industry because instead of what's referred to as a pipeline architecture that most products use, the Trio-based packet forwarding engine that is custom built by us uses a matrix of gates, of processing gates, which means it now can be very highly programmable, very flexible, and it excels at being highly scalable, right? Which is that multi-service operations. With some of the new generations of cards we'll be deploying in the platform going forward, we will deploy new generations of the Trio custom ASICs. So stay tuned for more of that. But you're going to continue to see major enhancements in innovation going into the MX10K platform, not only for the next generation of high-density 400 gig, but that orthogonal mid-plane architecture, the orthogonal interconnect architecture with no mid-plane allows platforms that have been shipping 3 years ago to accommodate not only high-density 400 gig, but even 800 gig in the future, so 2 generations beyond.
Okay, excellent. Yeah, there's quite a bit of quite a range of technology coverage there. There's a term that Juniper uses as I was, covering the routing space and kind of looking through what everyone's up to. A term that Juniper was using was agility for the unknown. what exactly does that mean, and how does that sort of apply to to the Juniper MX series?
Yeah. Um, Agility for the unknown, especially us on the MX team, we use this phrase a lot because
Mhm.
we think it crystallizes basically the fundamental differentiator that the MX multi-service, and I do stress the term multi-service, high-end router, has to other products in our own product line, because we do obviously market differentiation of our products, but also in the industry. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is the fact that unlike more use case specific platforms, and there's a need for those, the MX portfolio is designed to be highly flexible. And there's many parameters that allow us to design this into the system. Certainly the Junos operating system, which is very feature rich, but it allows for easy accommodation of new features to be added into the code. But really, one of the main differentiation points, as I briefly mentioned before, is the concept of our Trio packet processing ASIC system. These are custom designed processors that Juniper invests in. We're now shipping with the 5th generation of these processors. And one of the unique aspects, as I mentioned, is that they're based upon technology that we refer to as a matrix of packet processing cores inside the one packet processing engine. This matrix of processors allows the system to be very highly programmable. So things that generally take new hardware to implement, we can implement in firmware. One common example of this is we introduced our 4th generation Trio ASIC back over 3 years ago. And just recently, when we actually, close to 5 years ago now, actually, when we recently introduced SRv6 technology, and Juniper has a great deal of capabilities here, we can do up to 16 label depths with our SRv6 technology. We can implement that on processing engines, the Trio processing engines we came out with almost 5 years ago. Everyone else in the industry to implement SRv6 generally requires new hardware. To do anything beyond 2 or 3 label depths, they absolutely require new hardware. So it just speaks to the fact that that agility for the unknown is designed into the packet processing system and in Junos OSs to allow this system to be much more flexible and highly scalable.
Yeah, that's a great point too, because especially, I mean, we're in the unknown right now, right? I mean, our pattern, our work patterns have changed. There's a fair amount of uncertainty, about timetables and when the industry kind of gets back together and that sort of thing, and having technology that allows for that kind of flexibility, I think makes service providers and enterprises alike a lot more. Puts them at ease in terms of their technology investment. They can go ahead and pull the trigger and do something now and know that they don't have to,
Yeah.
that they don't have to play that game of, oh, what if they update it this time and what if they update it this time? It's like
Yep.
having that consideration and that ability to keep them up to date is critical, especially because, like you said, the networks, as resilient as they are, they went through quite a bit of a shock, when all these traffic patterns in the world suddenly changed.
Yeah.
I want to talk a bit about, kind of a little bit more about your customers and how the technology consumption model has changed in the past year. And then on top of that, how are customers looking to optimize their networks now that there is so much uncertainty being introduced, not just in their business but also in the lives of their customers.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually appreciate that question because it speaks to not just the thing that most of us as technologists gravitate to is technologically, what has happened to the networks and the demands in those. Um, Certainly the pandemic and the traffic pattern changes have changed many things, not just the technology and not just the networks themselves, but the business of supplying network services and supplying cloud services to end customers, and then what that means of how our customers, how Juniper's customers want to purchase from us. So that's been a dramatic change. We started seeing this many years ago with the desire to offer our customers to buy subscription-based rather than the traditional buy a physical product with a perpetual. What we've seen very recently, obviously, I think part of this is due to the pandemic, is much more dramatic business changes, right? Changes in how our service provider customers, their business demands have changed from their end customers. And they're looking for some relief, quite honestly, from the suppliers like Juniper. They need much more flexibility. And that's been a fundamental need that they're asking for. And quite honestly, not too long ago, Juniper really reacted to this, not only offering the subscription, and that's been in the works for a while, but really to accommodate much more around business flexibility, right? We introduced a significant enhancement or significant changes to how customers can consume our products. They can consume them as they always have if they continue to go down that model, which is to buy a physical product and to buy a license that is a perpetual license. But we introduced what we refer to as Juniper Flex, which is a nimble, agile networking technology consumption model and licensing model. And as the name implies, it's not one thing or another. It's complete flexibility. And not only flexibility when you buy, but even flexibility to modify things in the future. Fundamentally, what the Flex licensing allows is just-in-time deployment, even at the beginning, but also through the whole life cycle. So you choose what features you require at that point in time. You choose when you need them, because it may change from obviously 1 week or 1 month to the next, as we've seen. You also choose where you want to deploy it. You can flexibly move things around. So licenses that are portable, you can move based upon, as we've seen with the pandemic, the traffic patterns have changed.
Traffic
so
demands,
maybe, yeah, exactly. So you may want to move that traffic demands, even though you have the physical installation. I don't have the license. Move the license from this network over to that one, right? Whether it's in the same physical environment or literally even in another city. Then you can also choose how long you want that for, right? 3 year, 5 year, et cetera. Or I want to buy it outright, a perpetual license. So that's what Juniper Flex is all about. And it really accommodates the business models, not just the technology models. Yeah. So, the benefits
That's
to the
great.
customer, certainly, is that transparency, portability, right? And to align what they purchase with their business needs.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And then, I like that the technology flexibility is one thing, but having the business model flexibility,
Exactly.
is certainly something as well. Because I think that's also kind of the change that was already happening pre-pandemic was, with service providers adapting to, again, newer networks, 5G networks being installed, and consumption patterns were just starting to change at that point in a completely different direction. And maybe some of the business model assumptions they had made earlier didn't really hold up, or maybe they got even stronger, even more quickly in some cases. So, well, this has been a great overview. Thanks for giving us a bit of insight on Juniper's MX line, how it's evolving, how it met the changes, put on at the beginning of the pandemic, and how it continues to have an innovation pipeline that's worth looking forward to, and also for giving that bit of insight about how Juniper's been sensitive to the business model and the business flexibility changes of its customers. James Capobianco, thanks so much for being here today.
It's been my pleasure, Phil. Appreciate the time, and look forward to continuing to have conversations like this in the future.